Hello, my name is Jamie Thome and I am your host for Artist Bookhouse Conversations. This week we are speaking with Maria Pisano, who is a book artist, educator, and curator. Welcome. Hi, welcome, Maria. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm so happy that you're here. Where are you coming to us from?
I live in Plainsboro, New Jersey, just north of Princeton University, campus, which has been my lifesaver this past year.
I wanted to talk with you about how you became an artist, and then in a little bit, let's talk about how you became a book artist. But were you always an artist growing up?
Yes, I always loved to draw and read. Those were my two big things. And it just so happened that when I came here from Italy, next door to me was the art teacher for the school I was going to. And she kind of took me under her wing. And so we did a lot of really nice things for the community. We used to paint windows, store windows. We used to do a lot of cards. And it was really nice. It was very encouraging. My parents wanted me to be a teacher so I could have a job, but art was my love. But it wasn't until my last semester that I took a printmaking class, and it was love at first sight. And so then after graduation, I went to the Art Students League to really study under really amazing printmakers there. And then I did my master's in printmaking. And so, and I did a residency at Dieudonné also in papermaking.
What was it about the process that drew you to it?
Yeah, I think that was exactly the process. The fact that you begin with the drawing, and then there's layers and layers that you go through in that process. You're drawing on a blank slate, and then over time, this image kind of emerges, and you can change it. You go back and you do aquatint, you do intaglio, you do, anything you want to this image. And eventually, and I like the process the best because actually I never actually did an edition more than I say 10 of anything, because once I got through to the end point that I wanted to get to, I was happy, and then I started another print. And I think together with that's why the paper making, I think, came in so beautifully, because it was also another process, and I have irises that grow, Japanese irises. And I experimented with that. I experimented with whatever I was growing in my garden in terms of fibers. And I like the process of getting from A to Z.
Yeah, and every little bit of it, like if you grow the fiber and then you process the fiber and you make the paper and you add other things and then you layer on with the printing, that brings more of the artist's soul, I guess, into the piece.
Yeah, the iris paper, I mean, it's gorgeous. It has so much life to it. It's amazing to see how, a beautiful plant can become a beautiful sheet of paper, and to see the transition. It's just a lovely sheet. It makes me happy, like you said.
Yeah, it's incredible, the whole entire thing. I mean, we are trying to describe it in words, and I don't think if people haven't done it, they can't understand until you do it. When was your residency, your first residency at Dieudonné? When did you start to learn paper?
Well, obviously I was using paper for my prints. I had both pen paper and store-bought paper. I knew Sue Gosen. It was just great to work there. And I actually got a chance to work with, I don't know if you remember Joe Wilfer.
No.
He worked on some Chuck Close pieces, and I helped him with that. And that was really fascinating. Another way of using paper, more sculptural. I was doing some sculptural pieces, but nothing like that. That was really interesting, the way he was working with that.
He used, like, I guess the drops of paper, the plops of paper.
Yeah, I don't know if you know they're like they're plastic crates that have little squares in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean every little, it was what, half inch by half inch squares. Every one of those would get a different color.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so amazing. I mean, but Joe Wilford, it was just an honor to, be there with him. And then so many other artists, were working at that time, at Dieudonné. And it was great. I mean, I was doing, basic stuff, but then I got a whole week to do my own work there.
What led you to actually making a three-dimensional book? What was your first artist book?
Okay, so basically, like I said, I love to read. And I was making these really pretty big pieces of paper, 18 by 24 or bigger actually. We had built my own vat in the house. My father was a winemaker, so I converted that to a paper making press. And so then my son was born, and for a year I couldn't work. I wasn't doing anything. I began to just make small drawings, small prints, very small, right. And so then I had these tiny sheets. I can show you the book if you want.
Yeah, you sent me some images too, so we can drop those in as well.
Right,
but
right.
Yeah, hold it up so we get a scale.
Yeah, so it's a small book, and you can see the prints of maybe what, 2 by 2 maybe. So we're talking really small. And so it was just a way to heal, to just come back to myself as an artist. Dramatic events kind of take you off the beaten track. And so you need something to bring you back. And that brought me back. Not that I knew anything about bookmaking at all at that point. I grew up in Italy, and in Italy, as a young lady, you have to make your trousseau, learn how to embroider so you can have your trousseau. And I never did that, but I did learn how to sew very nicely. So that's what I used. Is it a traditional book? No. But that's what it was, the impetus for me to start taking bookmaking classes at the Center for Book Arts. And that's where I met Hècatombe, which was opening the sky. What can I say?
It took you to a different place. So
Right.
You mentioned that dramatic events take us out of ourselves. Do you feel like working small at that moment because you could still be right there? You didn't have to go do something else? Talk a little bit about that idea of sort of stealing moments to work, I guess, and how that healed you. I think I'm asking primarily because I want people to understand, for women, when we do become a mother, how to not lose that artist part, and how it happened for you to make these small pieces. And what are the prints? How did you make the prints?
The prints are a combination. Like, this is a small etching.
Oh.
It's an intaglio line, just an intaglio line, and then it's hand painted. These are just metal pieces, relief prints, really.
And what made the choice of working small happen for you for this?
Working small was feasible. There was no way that I could work on a large piece. The time element was just not there. I mean, the focus. My son was a preemie. He was on a monitor, all year. So, every time something beeped, you run scared. So that concentrated time just enabled me to work small. But, to me, it was a success. It was a relief. It was, just a moment of time that I could take for me. And obviously my husband was working full time. He was great when he was home, but at the same time, your responsibility was me. So to be able to do something, no matter how small it is, it's a victory. To heal, to begin, not to heal because, there was nothing wrong, but just to begin to get back to who you are. You're not just a mother. You're many things in your life, And so one of the things that is important to my life is being an artist. And so to me, nourishing that part of me was, very important. And if I could start small and do something creative, then, I felt good.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's really important to think about. And like you said, we are many things in our lives, not just one path, but we are like a spider web of all kinds of different facets. So let's go back to Hetty Kyle. What was your first experience working with Hetty?
She was, awe-inspiring, amazing, opened new world to me. And she was the reason why then I decided to do a second master's. I did a second master's in book arts, and the 2 years that I was with her there were, the best years of my life. Her class was from 6 to 10 at night, and I was commuting. And so I cannot tell you how many times, I'm pretty sure I fell asleep driving home, but it was worth it every moment. She really is an amazing teacher, a nurturer, helper, guider, everything. And just the way she approaches folding a piece of paper, it's not, it's just the attention, the details, everything, it's just so wonderful to have that much attention on the details. She opens your eyes to see, all those details that are important,
Yeah.
and not to look just at the big picture, but to look, inward first and see it starts from this point and then you can expand.
Yeah, the small things matter, that the small pieces, the details, like you said, they matter in the work. So when you started to learn more book structures, how did that influence your book arts work besides getting an additional master's? Where did you go from there with your work? Do you make editions now?
I do. Well, initially I didn't. I must say for the first 5 or 6 years, at least, I only did one of a kind. I was learning, and like I said, the process really is what's important to me. I was more interested in finding how I reached that point. And process, it's truly important because as you go through something, you make a lot of mock-ups. You see what works, what doesn't work, and eventually the whole thing does fit in. But there's a lot of choices to be made, and so that process is really informative to yourself as a person, as an artist. I always want, when I see a book anywhere, I wonder, an artist book, how did that person get there? You see the finished product, and it is beautiful, but I want to know what happened before. I want to know that arc that went in there. And I think that's what I really liked. And until I sold a unique book, and then I had nothing to show in an exhibit because I wanted it to put it in an exhibit. I said, well, I don't have any. And so then I decided to start small editions.
I know that the story, the theme, that the idea in the book is also important to you. I guess the question is, do you start from what you want to say, or do you start with the structure?
No, it's always with what I want to say. I keep journals, so I write a lot. And there's certain things that just keep my attention for a long time. And then I begin to do research on those subjects because it's not just me. I'm interested, so I have to find something that will keep my interest over this period of time. That if I choose to do this as an artist book, it can take anywhere from, I don't know, 6 months to 5 years. I've had that experience with books, depending on the complexity. So like I said, I like to read a lot. So I do a lot of research on the subject because it is my voice. It is what I want to say, but I want to expand what I say and understand the topic as fully as I possibly can. And then I think I can make a better gestalt of what I'm trying to say. And by reading and by researching the image of the structure and how and what structure to use, or how, begins to come in. And then I start doing mock-ups. And then I see, does this work? Does this not work? I've made many different structures to go with something until the right one, says, great. That speaks of what I'm trying to say.
And when you end up researching and going through this process of 6 months to 5 years or however long it takes for that particular topic and book, does the research sometimes flip the story for you?
No, it just makes it deeper meaning. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. And then when you are teaching your book arts classes and your structure classes and your theme classes, like, you always bring in the theme and the ideas around as you're teaching as well, and you encourage students to have that base to work from as well. How do you get across the idea that it's important? I'm interested in your process of teaching that, because some book arts classes you go just strictly structure. How do you approach teaching in that way?
Well, I think, a structure is a structure, but then you have to apply theme to it, subject matter to it. And by teaching my class, by asking the students, I do give them, parameters. I say, pick a landscape, pick your name, pick something. I do give them some ideas what to pick, because I find that when students come in, they kind of blank. They feel awkward. They don't want to put themselves out, especially in a 2-day workshop. So by giving them parameters, they have something that with them that means something to them. And by doing that, and teaching the structure at the same time, traditionally, I like, especially with tunnel books, I usually make an index card model just so they get the structure quick, half-hour thing. And then with their images, we begin to apply it to a larger tunnel book. And what I find is that they have their own images. There's a personal, stake in this, because each person brings different things. As you're cutting down, to reveal the layers, different questions come up. Because each one is different, more questions come up, and I can, share with the class, look, this person did this. If you are in this situation, well, look how you can solve this problem. So it really makes for a much better class and much more learning. It really opens up another layer for them to learn.
I feel like it's a very thoughtful way to approach teaching, and a thoughtful way to, like you said, it brings up problems that then the class gets that experience of thinking through that issue, as opposed to just, here's the structure, here's what you can do with the structure. They're invested in it a little deeper, I think, from what I'm getting the sense of as you're talking.
I can show them, I always come in and show them models and books that are commercially printed, sometimes if they're available, in that media. But that's one person's view. When you do every person, because their images are different and their ideas are different, will have a different problem and a different way of connecting these images. What to cut, what not to cut, what to leave, how much do I expose, And so it's important that they understand that each book is unique.
You honor the process in such a way that is so gorgeous, and I just respect that so much. All through all of this conversation, you're honoring the process of each thing. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, so thank you for that.
Sorry, yes. I've always wanted to do an exhibit, curate an exhibit on process.
Oh, you absolutely should.
Yeah,
let's find out
the opportunity anywhere that most places want, pretty finished work, but I love the process, and I have seen a couple of those exhibits.
Yeah, it's just because I think people are interested in knowing how an artist goes through all of the steps. Like you said, you can see the final piece, but you're curious as to how did you get to that point? And I think a lot of people, just lay people, non-artists, I should say, not lay people, don't necessarily understand that we don't just throw something down, or sometimes we do, but there's a process of thought that goes through on larger projects. So I just want to say that I really respect that you hold the process so wonderfully well in everything that you do, including teaching. I love that.
People don't see all the discards, all the, all the tries and fails, but you learn from the try and fails, And so, like I say, when I make mock-ups, I can make 10 mock-ups for one book and they fail, but they teach me a little bit along the way. So, the discards are just as important, as the final piece. And you don't see that, you see a beautiful piece in front of you and you say, wow,
Exactly. And I think it would make art less intimidating for a lot of people to see that process of try and fail and learn and work through the ideas and problems. I think it would really, really help open up art to a lot more people, if you will. So let's talk about curation. Do you approach curation in the same way of process? How do you think through curation?
Again, process is a good word, because I start with making a work, which then I feel, let's take my 9/11 book, okay? It took me 7 years to get there, just to think about it, to do it, because it was such a raw subject. And one day I was on a beach and I found this plastic piece and the shadow was the 9/11 towers. It's broken. And then I went home and I said, okay, somebody's telling me I need to deal with this. So I worked with that for quite a while. I did Hècatombe 9/11. I have all the names of all the victims in it. And it was a difficult book to do. But it helped me, again, get along. And then, the Center for Book Arts was doing a call for curators. And I thought it's important to see how other artists heal. How do they approach different moments in their lives? And that's how I proposed the exhibit to them, and it was accepted. And so to me, curation is an extension of what is important to me. But then I like to hear other voices, how they solve those problems, how they deal with those problems, and the same thing with the exhibit now at the Huntington Museum. It started with me creating a book for COVID-19. Again, it was between that and the Trump administration immigration problem, the way he dealt with the immigrants and children, separating their families. Mm-hmm. It was just so difficult to handle that once I did my book, and I was asked, would I curate an exhibit for the museum? And I said, as long as I can choose my own topics. And they were really amazing, open to the idea, even though, it could have been controversial because it is political and it is, but they were open and very willing. And so, it followed that. I think it's just, again, a process for me to work on something when I curate that is important, not only to me, but then, to extend it to other people. And hopefully the visitors can also come and share, because artists are really the means to communicate, something that perhaps we all feel but don't know how to express. And I think artists, really help us get over that difficult moment that we have in our lives.
Yeah, and it's a way of opening the communication, like you said, to have a conversation, even if the artist isn't there, but the piece is there for the viewer to start to think about whatever the piece is about. Mm-hmm. So the show at is it the Huntington?
Hunterton.
Hunterton. What is your advice that you would give to a young artist who's looking for places to show their work as they're looking at different themes and thinking like juried exhibitions, or I guess starting out artists, not young, because some people start as artists later in life. But what is your advice to give to artists, book artists in particular, as far as looking for places to show their work?
Well, when a call comes in, because not only did I use artists that I know, but then I send a call out to the Book Arts list or the Guild of Bookworkers list, because obviously, I haven't seen. And then I do research. I go to different collections and look at books in that theme. I ask them to help me. So I think every artist has their own specialty that they kind of focus on. I mean, in terms of what moves them, what their theme is. And so it's important to make sure that you know what the theme is and then respond to that theme if your work fits in. Have great images, to send in, and then have a statement to explain what your intent was. Because the curator, again, unless I see a book in person that I go to a collection and able to paginate it and see it, I only see 2 or 3 pages, and it doesn't give me the gestalt of that piece. So a statement is very important that gives me, what did they intend to say, and doesn't match what the exhibit is trying to say.
I just want to thank you so much, Maria, for talking with me today about all of these things. I loved the whole entire conversation, and the idea of process, that's going to stick with me. And we will find a place for you to curate a show on process.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Yes, I appreciate it very much.
Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support more of our Artist Bookhouse conversations and our other programming, please visit our website at artistbookhouse.org for more programming like this and to donate. Thank you so much.